Hello. I wanted to do a wrap up for September books. Let's just make it like a cozy chat with, a candle, a cup of tea. I picked up from someone's Patreon, I think it's Morgan Long Patreon. Um, her book of the month was Before Coffee Gets Cold, and I listened to it as an audiobook, and it's very, very interesting. It's slower, and storytelling is a little bit different. Um, Even though it is science fiction based because it's about time traveling, I think whenever we pick these different genres from Japan, for example, they're always gonna be a little bit different than our usual sort of American version of science fiction. So even a usual version of time traveling, it is more family based and relationship based. Um, and it is about a coffee shop that can bring you in time, has bunch of rules, and you usually have to come back before coffee gets cold because otherwise you'll get sort of stuck and become a ghost. Many different, almost like short stories with the same coffee shop characters, um, but everyone was going to the past for different type of reasons, and often often it would be something about relationship or finding missing parts, because one of the rules is you cannot change the present, so whatever happened, and it's about rekindling relationships, really. I loved it. I really liked it. It listens very fast. It's very like atmospheric. I find it's very soothing. It can be very much autumn like because it's about coffee shops, and a lot of like description of like how that vapor of the coffee sort of transports you into different time. And I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't have picked it up by myself. So sometimes we need to have these book clubs to open minds and to sort of be able to find new books. Wildwood is like a fairy tale with talking animals, and it's about a girl whose brother gets stolen by a murder of crows. And she goes into the forest looking for him, and they meet a lot of animals. It feels a little bit more like Alice in the Wonderland, and a little bit sort of its own. The world has its own logics, and you're trying to sort of understand. I feel like referencing it to Alice in the Wonderland. It's really really close to that somehow. Um, but generally, I really love the illustrations, and that's what originally drawn me to the book. I picked it in Canada, and I really liked the cover, and I just wanted to pick something middle grade. So I think, as I said before, I don't think we talk enough about this book because I got it from Canada. I don't see it much in the bookshelves here. But here we go. If something you want to sort of read that would be more fairy tale like, and about forests and forest animals, sort of I would say in the middle grade, that's where you might want to go in, especially if you like very magical stories, because that's definitely a very magical story. And there is a lot of graphic novels in this list, and let's start with some of them. So, Algebon, if I pronounce it right, is a graphic novel. It's really like, again, I picked from the cover because I just love this sort of like bird world, really. I loved it. It's called Audubon on the Wings of the World. The illustrations are amazing, and I want to say it is based on this historical figure who, was sort of like a researcher of birds, and he was the really sad thing about it, he kind of neglected his family. He was so indulged into this research, and birds and understanding birds and finding all the world's birds, that he seems to have forgotten anything else about in the world. And The saddest thing about it, what I discovered, is that he was killing a lot of birds just to make the models of them, and it just felt so wasteful and sad. And it does, it's somewhere closer to the end or the middle. It says that he kind of inspired Darwin, and then there is another book about Darwin on this. But really, is it's interesting. I personally don't know this figure historically, but I can tell he's like, after looking at some of the images that are actual samples, I feel like yes, we know this person. We've seen it before. We've seen art style before, but I wouldn't necessarily knew much about him. Let's say, and I think these sort of stories that are like retellings and uh, gives us ability to consume the story much quicker than would be reading the book, and like also more like open to readers, because then the people who might not read a book but read a comic might actually learn at the same time. So I am a big fan of it, of this sort of graphic novels that are like retellings or biographies like this. I do want to see the art style is very very good. And beautiful, but it just constantly made me sad about these dead birds, and just the story, like he's not a likable character. So I kept questioning, why would you want to write entire book on him? Like, look at the art, look at the birds are amazing in this. um and and yeah, but the only thing is, like, I didn't like him as a character. It was like just sad, just constantly sad about it, about his choices in life, really. Um, but at the same time, as a book, it is gorgeous. That's all I can say. I just want to find like something else that would be very very beautiful, but just like also these pages of like just visuals, also very very pretty. Regardless that, or the end page, like the end page. Look at this tree with all the birds in the sky. It's just so beautiful. It's an artwork. So basically, the book is an artwork itself. Okay. Okay, so this one, Brenda. I haven't had like it on my list originally. It was one of these like scrolling eyes where I just see something. I'm like, okay, she looks like one of his prize, and I might read it. Okay, so like I felt like maybe it will be similar world or something. That if I said that Audubon's book was beautiful art style, this one is probably even more gorgeous. Look at that. There's also again birds. Look how detailed it is. It's how it grabs the mouse and all that sort of, just the first page really. But like it's beautiful. I love the art style was the biggest selling point for this one. The story, I didn't feel it was as strong. Um it's basically, I just think that what we started with was not a good beginning to start with. So it was like this girl wakes up without the memories, and she's just running from some unknown enemies, really, more than anything. And this pretty much follows her through that. So it's very, like, takes it almost forever, and you don't get any of these questions answered. The art is gorgeous, the confrontation, the character, the there was a mermaid. I love the mermaid. I loved the mermaid. And look, there's plenty of panels without any text, and just the panels, and it's so beautiful. And this mermaid, it looked almost terrifying, and I just loved it. So I really really like it's so much less of a text, more than the pictures, and it's much gorgeous. The layouts, the art, the animals, the colors, the entire pages of like particular moods and colors. So I think it's done really well for its arts. But however, the story at the end, it sort of gives you the explanation, I don't want to spoil it, but basically at the end it tells you why she was so like persistent of running and what she's running from sort of situation and what it is all about. And it sort of feels like some sort of, what I want to say, it feels like some sort of Valhalla after death sort of world. And yeah, and yes, and then it's kind of like the last pages kind of overlaps reality, is sort of more close reality to us and like this world, and it's like, and sort of almost magic is gone, but you have some signs of magic in this world. And the last pages are the character design. How beautiful is this? I like this sort of design pages. um this is what I'm trying to do my Patreon on, is all about like the process, and this is what just felt so good for me. And yeah, in general, you can tell I really love the art. And now that I'm looking at it back at it, I'm like, should I keep it just for the art because it's so gorgeous? I don't keep my books most of the time. I give them away. But at this point, I'm like, oh, it's so gorgeous. Maybe I should keep it as a reference and just like example of very good art. Both of them. Algebon is also that great. Next one is Sugar Upon My Lemons. That's a realistic sort of story. We picked it up in the Essex sort of Writers' Day or something like that, Authors' Day or something like that. And obviously, there was a couple of people that telling about the books that are all the local authors. And this lady, she wrote a story about herself and her partner. And just listening to that presentation, you can see how much love is flowing just talking about her partner. And what I liked about is so much heart. How like her love for her partner is like bigger than world really. And I loved how she described him um like Father Christmas. Or something like along the lines. And because that's how I sort of describe my partner. I'm like, he's like that Christmas feeling to me. And this is what really made me get it. Is like I can feel that relationship, that close relationship with my partner, as I could see that she had. And it's actually after their other relationships, like I think we both had the divorce and they sort of rekindled later, like met later in life. And she looks much more frailer lady when you see her. She said this book also might be picked up by Hollywood or something like that, but what I want to say, it has so much heart and it has a very young voice. You wouldn't tell by the presenter, by the writer while seeing her, but her voice is so young. She tells like how she likes, working around the house, and like how she liked interior design, how she liked certain shows, the rom-coms or whatever. And it was like very much like young, energetic voice flowing through it. And it's sad because obviously her partner died, and this is why she written it. He had, I believe, some sort of cancer. I don't remember if it was bowel or lung, but basically she'd been telling about these last moments, and it's just so like this could make you cry. This would definitely be a book to cry about. But also very short, very consumable. I gave a copy to my sister, and she'd been reading it and she liked it. So there's something you can read very quickly on a journey or something. And if you want a good like heartwarming and touching story, and like also in a sense heartwarming, but it's not just all depressing, but it's also very 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 like nice, and like that relationship, like you feel all the warmth, not only the sad and terrible parts to it, let's say. Okay, enough about that. But I think the other one, I continued with Hilda. I have no idea. I think we do have numbers. Someone did mention to me, like, what order we have read in. And I'm like, I'm reading them whichever order. I seen the cartoon, and I seen it all multiple times. It's something that I put on to make me relax. And generally, it's a very wintry cartoon, I would say. She always dressed very warm. I was, like winter, autumn, really. So it's really suiting these vibes for now. So I definitely know the story already with these, pirate ship and all. But what I want to say, originally, before when I read the other books, I might have said that they're not exactly the same as a cartoon and we're presenting differently. After watching Hilda so many times, I realized that I just don't remember it correctly. It's actually quite close to the books. So some of the things were actually in the cartoon, but I just like maybe filtered it out or forgot or washed it out with other memories. But it was not much for me to tell. Apart that, I really enjoy reading Hilda. It's something very light and consumable. It sort of compensates for me rewatching it so many times, and yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Hilda is my world anyway. um, anyway, another thing that I did speak about, and you heard like so many videos now, probably, Lollipop Shoes is a book that is the second part of a chocolate book, and John Harris, and it is about this lady Vivienne Rocher who escaped from one town. If you've seen Chocolate movie, you sort of know what it is about. So you possibly can skip the first one and just start with the second one. I'm sure I might have done that, or might have read first one at a very young age, which I might not have any recollection of. But I want to say it's so beautifully written. Every word is intentional. It's very clean writing. It's all connects in the end. It's very like intentional going to in the story. That's my biggest thing. I like intentional. I like concentrated, condensed to the right. Everything is what's needed, not overcrowded in any sense. Not too busy, and it all feels very, very flowing, and wording is amazing. And also what I want to say is we follow three perspectives, and one of them Vivienne Rocher, which obviously was the main character from before, and we follow Anouk, which is her daughter, and that was the most charming perspective because it's childlike. It's sort of she's becoming more of a teenager. She's having more teenage problems, but she still has that naive sort of childlike belief. And then we have Susie, which is I think Susie, but so Susie, I don't remember. Anyway, she is the new character that's bringing in to the shop and suddenly like changing their lives because they've been like kind of like muted, let's say, from the first book to the second. They've been like escaping and quite muted in themselves and we're not as expressed. And then this new fresh wind, which is Susie, she brings the magic all back again. And it's very interesting because it feels so much closer to witchcraft and so much closer to like, is it the good magic or bad magic, or you can actually have bad consequences. Not just as just magical realism, it just actually goes closer to that fantasy of witchcraft. It's still magical realism, but it feels like you can actually feel there are certain rules in that system, and there are certain like you can make magic happen. It's not all just barely palpable, and sort of a bit, just in details. So I think it was like that, and I really loved it because that's something I'm writing, witchcraft and coffee shops, and this is what was chocolate was always one of my inspirations because I always wanted to write something like that would be about desserts. So it's really like so close to me, and I did say that before, but any Alice Hoffman fan would love it because it's like practical magic, that detail, that witchcraft, that magical realism. It's all there. Yeah, definitely, and because you can pick it up you can pick it up without the first book. I think you wouldn't have a problem if you've seen a movie. You can easily know what is talked about. You can actually just do the second book by itself. I am gonna keep on and do the third book at some point. I already like got it on my audiobooks, and audiobook was so amazing. The voices was perfect. Like it just lulls you into that atmosphere. And it makes me understand that sometimes audiobooks can bring the atmosphere much closer to home than read word, because you don't necessarily nail the exact voice and exact pauses and all that. But yeah, one, I think it's gonna be long one of my favorites. I'm so glad because it was recommended by my friend and I didn't even knew this existed. So I'm so glad I picked it up, and I keep saying like, you should do it too. You should pick it up. If you like Alice Hoffman, like you won't regret it. I can promise it. Then other books are another graphic novel. I thought to get something, more for the season. So it's called Gift for a Ghost. Again, one of the books that I bought just scrolling because I like the picture. I'm like, oh, that feels like something I will enjoy. Terrible, I know, and I should stop doing that. But also, I never heard of it, and that would be like one of the ways of discovering new things. And I want to say that I didn't quite follow it. It was like different timelines and different time frames collided together, and beginning all winds back to the end. There is a skeleton man, and then you meet the skeleton person who changed for Halloween, dressed as skeleton, and I didn't quite understood how it all goes together, because in the beginning we say 1800s, but then we see that it's kind of something more from the future. So it felt like it's sort of almost time traveling and some sort of different universes that are overlapping and repeating itself almost. I need someone of you, and some of the situations were like story within a story and dreamlike, felt very, very surreal. It's about inspiration and some sort of punk rock and lyrics and poem, and it's all overlapping, and it just feels like some sort of like a poem itself, like a musical piece. You kind of need to know where to look and what system it is, and I need someone to explain it to me, I think, because it also felt like time travel and dreamlike, and I still liked it. But it left me a little bit confused in what sort of message I was supposed to bring out of it. But it was about also inspiration, and the song. I couldn't, like, I cannot tell. Please read it. Please read it and explain it to me. It's good. It's good in otherwise. I did like it, but please explain this to me. And then I'm almost closely to done, I promise. I always need to read some light readings in between heavier, and that's why you always see so many graphic novels, because you can sit and read them in one go, while some of the thick books you're gonna read forever. So that's why I have, some spaces in between with these graphic novels, and that's why it looks a lot, but it's actually quite fast reads, so it's actually not that many in this month, I think. So the other book I read was called Pog. Again, I picked it up from like bookshelf because I was like looking at something more with this vibe, some sort of unknown creatures. Do you see a little creature on the Anyway, so it's about two children who lost their mom and moving into this family home. And I think it's about loss in general. Apparently they've been hanging out. They found in the attic this creature called Pog, and he's some sort of protector of the realms because there are other creatures eating memories. And I think it's pretty much not said directly, but I think it was about coping with loss. It's quite otherwise feels more happy than depressive. I thought it was very nice read, in the sense it's one of these chill reads like Hilda that I could just sit down and read without like any chaos and calmly down, really. Sometimes I need books like that in between. That's all I can say. I need a tea. Now, the books that I haven't finished, but that's on my plan to finish in the last couple of days. Not maybe in a couple of days, but one of them is Anne of Green Gables. This is my Patreon book of the month, and I am actually planning to start doing more of the like live streams to have a book discussion, so bring that book club of Patreon closer so we can actually, get to know each other. I have no subscribers, so the first time around, I'm probably gonna be just chatting to myself and basically tell you more about what I thought about Anne of Green Gables, and just, general discussion of it. I haven't quite finished it yet, so the only thing that I can say about it so far, like I'm closely to finishing, so I'm gonna finish it by the stream. I definitely wanna get to make some more like cozy streams where you can just talk and chat and be more like a group of people. But anyhow, I want to say I've been reading it super, super slowly because it felt like something to indulge and to not miss details. And it's more like taking a sips of tea rather than having it done quickly. So that's why I've been really like just, slowly taking it in. I'll talk about it more on my Patreon, but I think most of us know Anne of Green Gables. Maybe a lot of us have read it in childhood, and it basically gives me an adult perspective to it. We probably all love Anne with an E, and that's why I wanted to pick it back up because I just adore all the remakings of Anne. Is one like I think it was one of my favorites as a child. One of the things I can mention, and which I said maybe even before, that actually has like eight parts in the series, or at least six. But most of us just know the first book, and even in the bookshops, you will only possibly find the first book, which I found like very, very, very mysterious. Anyhow, this chunky book, right? Oh my gosh, raise your hand if you managed to finish it. I decided, like, if you saw it, like, roll the dice to read something more serious in comparison to all these little ones, little babies. So I got this one because everyone has read it. It was on my list. I just wasn't looking forward to so many pages. And the Prairie of the Orange Tree, right? And it's about dragons, and it's a lovely dragon on top of it. And it's like a retelling, I believe this is like a retelling of St. George and dragons, right? It's supposedly historically connects to certain elements, but there are certain different views on dragons from different east-south perspectives. My biggest problem is really that high fantasy book. I don't have a calm mind to soak it in. And whenever we put so many perspectives, so many names, I struggle to cope with the chaos. So it was taking me like at least like good 200 pages to even start getting into it. And I still don't think I'm following it right through. I am going to finish it. It's well written, it's very textural, and it's really the writing style is gorgeous. It's very, very dense. So, you understand why it's so chunky, because it's so textural in every single description almost, and dense. But I'm a bigger fan. Like, I don't want to say I hate it in any sense, because I would have dropped it if I did. I still kind of enjoy it, but I'm just struggling dealing with the chaos. I'm a bigger fan if it's very clean details and like very intentional, and that what would make it much easier to follow. But I'm also reading too many children's books to actually, be that capable. But anyhow, finally I did manage to pick it up. I know everyone's been reading Babel, and I'm looking forward to that, but I'm probably gonna be like forever till I pick that one up, because there's so many of these chunky ones from last year or before. But here we are. Hopefully, well, tell me, what do you think? Do you ever struggle with chaos if it's like too magical, too many names, too many perspectives? That's another thing. I used to love perspectives, and I used to write perspectives much more. I used to love perspectives, especially in my teenage years. That was my favorite, way to read, really. The more the perspectives, the more confusing things are. But I think that my mind became so much more busier these years that I just need something more like easier to follow. Sounds terrible, but here we are. Regardless that, I really love a writing style, and I think it has, like I say, texture, and learning how to describe a texture, which I think as a writer I can still soak a lot of things in from it. and I am, determined to finish it regardless what. So, I'm not even halfway through. I can exactly tell you where I am. I'm at 355 pages at the moment. It's about over 800. Maybe I should have done audiobook. Sometimes that helps with these sort of big books, right? But here we are. That's my reading for September. And I think it's very much clear for me that I'll be reading The Priory of the Orange Tree for the rest of the time, and Anne. And then obviously October will go a different sort of directions. I do want to show the book that I put on to try read, but it's not going to be book of the month, I don't think, for me. But also it's kind of in a season, so I want to show it because I haven't seen that much of it around. But again, I don't know much about it. But have a look. Right, it's called Bewitch. Right, I'm suspicious it's gonna be either really good or really bad. Because sometimes these witchcraft books are pretty bad. I want to read the last sentence of this. The two girls ran, putting the horrible message behind them. But every time Ridley closed her eyes, it was as if the words had been burned across her retinas. Dead witch. I don't know. Interesting. We'll see what it is about. Have not given me idea what to expect, but I do wanna read it. It's called Bewitch. Right? Looks very like cartoony, so I think it's gonna be very light. And that's why I'm thinking maybe with all these other books I might be able to at least start it before October. But I'll tell at least about this one I'll tell more in the wrap-up list in next month, but I might not mention The Priory of Orange Tree anymore, or unless something shocking happens in it that I cannot shut up about. But thank you for watching, and hope this was cozy, and tell me what you think.